Hi guys, and welcome to this lesson number 4 for Autumn Leaves, where I thought this week we could concentrate on 2-note enclosures, which is a great ingredient really into sort of mainstream bebop type vocabulary. If you listen to Clifford Brown, Sonny Stitt, any sort of good mainstream bebop players use 2 or 3 note enclosures. We're going to progress onto those at some stage and even make them a bit more chromatic, but today it's the 2-note enclosure. Okay, and I'm just going to show you some examples. So here's an example and it's just a simple D minor 7 to a G7, a 2/5, and you can see it happens twice. It happens from the E to the C sharp, which is enclosing the D, and it also happens the other way around, so underneath, above, so that the C to the E, and then targeting the D. Okay, so there's a good example of a couple of enclosures in one phrase. Here's another one. So the target note is the B, and it's enclosed by the C and the A. Okay, and then just the last one. There's a couple in here. Actually, they're all. If we look at it this way, it's the C to the E to the D, but then you could also look at the D to the A, enclosing the C, and then the C to the A enclosing the B flat, and also the F natural to the A enclosing the G. Okay, so it is widely used, and it's great just to isolate it like we've done with all these techniques so far, and just work it into our playing. Just work it into our playing using a tune as a basis. So in activity 1, we're going to use a 2-note enclosure, approaching from above and then below the target note. I've left this purely diatonic, okay, which means I'm not using any chromatic notes, but feel free to experiment, okay? Otherwise, we would just have reams and reams and reams of activities and etude. So I've just left this diatonic for now, just to get you used to still trying to hear the target note. Okay, so let's have a listen to activity 1, followed very closely afterwards by activity 2, and it's exactly the same. We're targeting the third, but the first activity we are approaching from above, so above, below, target note, above, below, target note, and then in the next activity exactly the same, but below, above, target note, below, above, target note. And what's good about this is because we've been doing so much targeting of the thirds, feel free, like I always say, to also do this on the root, on the 5th, on the 7th, on the 9th, whatever you feel like. But I've done this activity just for today, targeting the third, and we know why, because I've said many times, I think it holds the most melodic value. Okay, so here we go. Activity 1 and activity 2, listening to the 2 demo etudes with the music. Okay, here we go. Now, another very important aspect of jazz improvisation is space, okay? Creating space within a solo. Not always starting a phrase on beat one, okay? And it just, by learning to come in on different beats of the bar, which isn't very natural at first if we're coming from a mainly classical background, or we've not done much improvisation, we tend to always want to start on beat one. But actually, as Miles and Dizzy said, it's you know, if the pickup, those approach notes we did last week, if you can really get the hang of those approach notes, that just adds so much more swing and authenticity to your solo. But this, you're still approaching obviously by two, and we are approaching the third beat, but it just helps create a bit of space. So it's exactly the same targeting, but we are now targeting beat three. Okay, beat three, still the third, and it's still going to be the same way round. So we're going to do from below to above, and then the target note, below, above to the target note. And then the next activity, activity 4, same again, targeting the third. And as I've said before in the other one, you can practice this targeting any note, okay? Just, if you're targeting a chord note and you hit a chord note, it's going to sound good. It's going to sound good. It's not going to, well, put it this way, it's not going to sound wrong. It's not going to, you're not going to be hitting a clanker, okay, or a clinker, whatever you want to call it, okay. And then activity 4, above the note, below the note, target note, above, below, target note. Okay, so let's have a listen to Autumn Leaves with those two activities. Here we go. Okay, so we've moved on now to activity number 5. Now, don't worry if you don't get to activity 5, okay, during the week. These lessons are just they're there. They're going to be there for a long time, hopefully. I have no plans of taking them down. So you can just work through this music at your own pace, okay? And, you know, I'm trying to put activities there for people that really like lots to get their teeth into. But do you know what? If you only do activity 1 and maybe activity 2, you're still going to be doing something that you didn't do before, okay? And you're still going to be making progress, and it's still going to help you play a melodic solo, okay? It's just with the other activities as well, they're almost like extension activities. So don't feel like, oh my word, I'm getting left behind, okay? Just this, what we're doing here is lots and lots of different activities. And then when we move on to the next tune, we'll be doing the same type of activities in a slightly different way. And so you're always going to be getting hit by these activities, doing these exercises, and it's like I heard someone say once, you know, if there's a whole bottle of medicine, but you only take 2 spoonfuls, it's still better than not taking any of the medicine. Okay, so that's another way to look at it. Okay, so here we go now on activity 5. And we are also targeting beat 3. So as well as targeting beat 1, we are also targeting beat 3. Like I said before, if you want to experiment yourself with chromatic notes, what I tend to find, I personally quite like when I'm the note below the target note. Sometimes that sounds really nice when you make that just the semitone to the target note. So if I was going from an E to a C and targeting a D, I might try it and see what it sounds like making the C a C sharp. Okay, something like that. Okay, or if I was targeting a D, I might do an E to a C sharp rather than a C natural. Okay, but it's up to you. It's up to you what you want to try with that. Okay, so here we go, and we're going to now listen to activity number 5, targeting beats 1 and beats 3. Now, for the majority of these, I think, but looking at it, I have targeted the fifth, because it tends to move nicely when you're going through the fourths. It tends to go nicely from the 3rd to the 5th to the 3rd to the 5th to the 3rd to the 5th. But of course, you don't have to. Okay, you can target any note you want, and this is just an etude that I've created. So feel free to. I mean, there's nothing wrong with trying to write out your own 4-bar. You know, the first 4 bars of Autumn Leaves, you could try your own and try maybe 3 or 4 different versions, and see which you like and which sounds best to your ears. Work out what that is and then practice it. So maybe it might be the tonic to the 5th. Okay, that might be what you favour. So that would be the way I suggest you do it, because you're still developing what comes naturally to your ears. Okay, what pleases my ear is targeting the 3rd, as I've said. I really, you know, on the beat 1, if I can, not always, but if I can. Okay, so let's have a listen now to activity number 5, where we are targeting beats 1 and beats 3 with chord notes. Okay, here we go. Okay, the final activity for this lesson is, again, like I did last week, activity number 6, simple jazz etude using all the techniques that we've used so far. So the chord notes, rhythms, scales or sort of key centers that we spoke about, approach notes, which we covered last week, and enclosures. So as I've said as well before, okay, we've only been going this is our 4th week now, so it takes time to develop these activities to get the fingers moving in time with our ear. Okay, so that can be the trick, because I I don't think many of you know, I also play violin, and I am a frustrated jazz violin player because my technique on the violin isn't as good as my ability to hear and sing a jazz solo. So if I, I don't have time to practice it to actually get there. If I'm gonna make time to practice, or I should say, when I make time to practice, I'm always going to go for my trumpet first. Okay, but I would love also to be able to do it on the violin. But I realise it's the developing that skill of getting what I'm hearing in my head to my fingers. Okay, so that, which is of course what we're doing. So by practicing these exercises like the ones we've done today, okay, the more you do it, the more you hear it, the more your fingers will get used to what you want to hear, etc. And it might take more than a week, it might take more than a month, it might take a year, okay, of just continually practicing the right way. But I'm 100% confident if you practice in the way that I'm prescribing, with laser targeted focus for each practice activity, always thinking, now this is the most important thing, always thinking, what is it I'm trying to get better at? Because we're all guilty of it, just sitting down improvising, okay, and it is great fun to do, and we all love doing it, but that's a slow road, because without actually practicing something, you're not improving at anything. Okay, so make sure at least the majority of your practice is targeted practice, thinking, right, I am trying to get better at learning my chords, I am trying to get better at approaching the fifth, I am trying to get better at learning this scale, the palette of notes that I could use on this key center. Okay, I'm trying to get better at enclosures, and if you can do that, you'll get better at it. Okay, it's impossible not to. And if you're not getting better at it, you're probably trying to do it too fast. Slow it down, and you will get better at it. Okay, because that's all there is to it. It's if you do everything at a slow pace. I did a professional development day for Derbyshire Music Partnership once, and we had this guy come in. I think he's a big time Australian music educator, and he was talking about the power of practicing slowly, and he mentioned one of the famous schools, it could have been Juilliard, I'm not sure, but a school in New York where when you walk down the corridor where the violins practice, he was saying it's famous for not being able to work out what any of them are doing, because they are practicing so slowly, okay, to really get that movement with the fingers or whatever, and going with the ear. Now I know they're practicing classical music, but if guys like that, the virtuosos of tomorrow are practicing like that, there's got to be something in it, isn't it? Slow, steady, and then that's just gonna, if you can play something really well slowly, you've only got one way to go. Okay, but if you're trying to do something too fast, too quick, too much information, that leads to frustration and not a very happy practice session. Okay, so nice and steady, one thing at a time, and you're going to make fantastic progress. That's all there is. That is it. You will make fantastic progress. Okay, so activity 6, like I said, covers everything that we've done so far. Okay, just a simple etude that I've created. Okay, just looking at it here, yeah, and using all the ingredients so far. So let's have a listen to it, and then you can try and practice this etude, and hopefully now, when you're looking at the etude for your instrument, you'll see, oh yeah, I can see, yeah, he's used some approach notes there. Oh, he's using enclosures there. Oh, he's just using the chord notes. Oh, he's using some syncopated rhythms, but with the chord notes. And you can see just by using the techniques that we use so far, it's possible to create a solo that would, you'd be able to stand up and play that in front of an audience, and everyone would be happy to, you'll be happy to play it, and hopefully people will be happy to listen to it. Okay, so let's now have a listen to the etude, incorporating all of the topics we've covered so far. Okay, here we go. Okay, so that's it for this lesson today. I think I'm going to do one more lesson on autumn leaves, and what I would like to do is cover the 2-5-1s, because that is a big ingredient, and it was one of the first things that I did. At the minute, we've been isolating lots and lots of different types of vocabulary. Okay, and that's great to get us off to a good start. Okay, there's so much more that we can do, but what I would like to do, and I'm going to give you a free copy of my book which I've created called Jazz Language, and it is basically full of basically it has 10 2-5-1s in a major key, long ones. It has 10 2-5-1s in a minor key. All of those are written out in all the keys. And it also has the short 2-5-1s. So when you get, it's only 2 beats. 2 beats for D minor 7 to 2 beats G7, okay? Or whatever that chord may be. So like a little turnaround. So it has 10 of those as well. And 10 minor ones, okay? I've tried to keep them nice and diatonic and nice and simple. But, by practicing licks that definitely work, one, you're going to start developing your vocabulary even more. Get your fingers and your ears doing things that you might not otherwise do. And also, you're going to start seeing what works and how it works. Yeah, okay, I can see that there is an enclosure. There's some approach notes. That's just doing the chord notes. Okay, a good use of syncopated rhythm or triplets. Okay, you'll start to understand what works, and especially when you start looking at the transcription, say, of whoever you love to listen to, Chet Baker, Paul Desmond, Jim Hall, whoever your favourite players are, Frank Rosalino, I don't know, but you'll start to see what they use, and you'll also see their vocabulary. Okay, I'm the 4 main trumpeters that I love to listen to, and I tend, 5 really. Well, I could go on and on, but really they are Louis Armstrong, Clark Terry, Clifford Brown, Chet Baker, and Blue Mitchell. Now those 5 guys, probably for me, if I could wave a magic wand and play like those guys, it would be amazing. But what you notice when you pick a player, they're so easily identifiable, not only by their sound, their articulation and their approach, but their vocabulary, the way that they play through the changes. Okay, and they all have their own way of doing it, and what I'm teaching you now will hopefully give you the skills to understand what they are doing. And this is what I learned when I did my masters. Robin Dewhurst said, so you've got to, a great way to develop your own vocabulary is to look at the musical thumbprint. Okay, and this is what I did for my masters. I did a lecture recital on Louis Armstrong, and it was entitled Louis, his influence on 20th century music, which is, it's just incredible, massive. Okay, and I really studied Louis' playing and what made Louis sound like Louis. Okay, and by doing that, it benefited my playing so much. And we are going to talk about this further on in other lessons about the power of transcribing, the power of listening properly. Okay, so that will be next week, where we like I say on the page, I'll put the downloads for you, and you can just download whichever book you want. It comes in B flat, E flat, concert and bass clef, and it's just chock full of simple, but it just nice and diatonic. And there's also some etudes in there I've put in there. I think Stella by Starlight, what is this thing called Love, I think maybe I can't remember actually offhand what all the etudes are. Maybe Confirmation, but using the licks or the phrases that I've used for the short 251 in the minor key and the major key, and the longer 251 in the major and minor key. And I've tried to insert as many of those into jazz standards. Okay, so you can see how they work. Okay, of course, that is not the whole point of what we're trying to do, copy and paste licks, but we need to start somewhere, and we need a vocabulary, we need a toolbox of things to fall back on if, when we are playing, we're not at the stage where we can hear. Okay, we just lift up your instrument, turn on the backing track, or you're up there with a ribbon section, and okay, we're going to do Autumn Leaves. Are you hearing things yet? Okay, and if you're not, then you do need something in your back pocket to play, so to speak, some phrases, or just a way to get through the changes. Okay, and the more you do it and the more experience you get, you do start to hear more and more. That's my experience, okay, of practicing like this. Okay, so quite a bit of talk in there, sorry about that, but hopefully you found it beneficial. And yeah, so next week 251s, we're going to be looking at 251s. If you don't know what a 251 is, check it out. There's loads of information on about 251s. 251 is a building block of Western music. If you look at all the jazz standards, like the American Songbook, it's absolutely packed full. If you look at a tune like Ladybird, Tad Dameron's Ladybird, or All the Things You Are, it's a chord progression, and the 2 is the minor key, which is, so if we're in the key of C, the 2 chord is D minor 7, and then it goes to the 5, which is why it's a 2, 5, and which is the dominant chord, G7, and then that modulates to the 1 chord, 2, 5, 1. Okay, and there's some other things that we could look at in there as well, like guide tones and things like that, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Okay, so I hope you enjoy this video. Practice your enclosures. It will help your technique, it will help develop your ear, and it's also giving you that forward motion where we're going. Okay, see you next week. Bye for now.